Thank you very much. We got a roll call, Kathleen.
Commissioner Blanco,
Here?
Commissioner Lopez,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez is absent, Commissioner Seifert is absent, Chair Dickerson.
Here. Dana, did you have a thing first? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chair Dickerson, Commissioners. I did want to just make an announcement. If you are logged into the Zoom meeting and if you wish to comment on an agenda item, please use the raised hand icon on the Zoom platform. Once you are recognized, you will then be unmuted and allowed to comment on the business at hand in the order received. Maximum comment time is 3 minutes or as otherwise directed by the chair. And if you are calling in and wish to be acknowledged, please raise your hand by dialing *9 and identify yourself when unmuted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the Planning Commission minutes of August 4th. That was a Zoom meeting. Have the commissioners had a chance to take a look at them, and are there any comments or adjustments to be made? Otherwise, we need to have them approved.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for August 4th, 2021.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right. Knocking the rust off these things here. Public comment period. Each member of the audience may address the commission on any subject within the commission's business. Each member of the audience and each subject is limited to discussions of 3 minutes or as otherwise directed by the chair. This is for items that are not already on the agenda. So if anybody wants to make comments about things that are not on the agenda, this is the time period to do it. Otherwise, you wait for the agendized item. Do we have any slips for comments? And do we have any Zoom hands up? Okay, seeing none, then we will move on to the first agendized item, which is Boomers Family Rides Permit Amendment at 2250 North Prescott Lane. Can we hear from staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Carol Ziesenhenny. I'm a planner with the city, and I'm presenting the Boomers Family Rides at 225 North Prescott Lane. This is a request to remove an existing kiddie go-kart track and install 3 mechanical amusement rides at the existing Boomers Family Amusement Park. The park was originally reviewed by the Planning Commission in 1989 through a plan development permit. This project before you tonight amends the original approval. The project site is located within the Boomers Family Amusement Park off Prescott Lane. It's right next to Highway 1 and the Broadway interchange. It's to the south of the Filipino Community Center. Across the street is Prescott Park and the Prescott Gardens subdivision. And just to the south is the future location of the Carpenters Union Training Center, which is currently undergoing grading and construction. The property is within a planned development general commercial district and is adjacent to other commercial districts to the south. To the north is a public facilities district with the Filipino Community Center. And across the street are single-family residential and open space. On the screen before you is the project site plan showing the existing amenities and structures on the Boomers Park. The proposed project site is shown in the yellow box. So just to familiarize the commission and the public with the site, this is a 120 space parking area in the front. Entrance comes along here to prevent undue stacking into Prescott Lane. Just within the entry of Boomers is the batting cages. Go-kart track, full-size go-kart track is to the north. The arcade building, bumper boat pond, and 18 mini golf courses are right next to US Highway 101. Spin zone and bumper cars are right over here as well. The project site area is approximately 550,000 square feet, or 5,500 square feet total. The new rides are proposed over the existing kiddie go-kart track, paving, and picnic area. So there's picnic umbrellas and seating right here. This is an aerial view with a call out of the proposed site plan. Again, you can see the arcade and spin zone. This is the aerial view of it. Spin zone is under here. The go-karts are to the north. So going from the front, the attractions, fencing, and bumper rails for the kiddie go-kart ride is proposed to be removed. Picnic umbrellas over here are also proposed to be removed, and one light pole. Landscaping and flat work for the track itself are to remain, and there's minimal landscape disturbance required to install footers for the rides. So the 3 rides are the teacups, minor mics, and jumping star. I'll go into more detail regarding these rides on the next slides. Here are plans of the proposed rides and some example photos from other locations. Please note that these are not actual depictions of the rides that are to be installed. So this is an elevation view. Maximum height of the ride for teacup is 12 feet with a radius of about 28 feet. As you can see, the rides circle and then raise up to a maximum height of 7.5 feet. Their attractions are certified by the state of California and are inspected annually by the California Department of Safety and Health. The plans are drawn by an engineer and do require a building permit prior to installation. Here's a view of Minor Mike's. It's a roller coaster type ride. It's just a oval track that goes up to about 4 feet in height with up to 2 people per car, 12 passengers total, and they go around the ride as shown here. Jumpin' Star is more of an up and down ride. The maximum height of the gondola is about 18 feet. And you can see here, they'll just go about to right there. The acoustical analysis was prepared for the project and is attached to the staff report packet in your binders and is in the online agenda. The site was monitored at 3 locations to study the existing ambient noise levels at each location, shown with these arrows here. And they also used noise measurements from comparable rides located in Fresno that were as loud or louder than the proposed rides with this project. So the baseline existing noise data was collected 170 feet from the proposed project site. It's right next to the loudest part of Boomers, which is the go-kart rides. And a couple with concern for sensitive receptors at the residences across Prescott Lane, the noise study also included measurements from across the street at these 2 locations. The highest ambient base noise levels are shown on the next slide. So just to familiarize yourselves with the table, in parentheses is the city's baseline maximum level of noise per the municipal code. And then shown here, this is the average half hour. So this is the ambient base level. So what you can expect within a half an hour interval. So as shown on the slide, all of these rides are at or below the city's requirement for noise. And the range represents those that would be expected at the closest sensitive receptor locations. So they were measured at the Fresno site, and then there was a calculation done to show how loud they would be at the residences. The study concluded that the 3 proposed amusement rides at Boomers Santa Maria would not be expected to exceed any applicable City of Santa Maria noise level standards, nor would the rides be louder than the existing ambient noise levels within the project vicinity. So just as a reminder, the maximum noise level per city standard in residential zones is 55 and 55 decibels. Commercial is 65 during the daytime, and these rides are proposed to be lower, less loud than the ambient levels. Therefore, the project will not pose any negative noise impacts to any nearby residences or other sensitive uses such as the community center to the north. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission by motion approve Plan Development Permit A 2021-0002. Staff is available for any questions.
Chair Dickerson, before we move forward with the meeting, I've been notified that the attendees on Zoom are not able to hear us at all. So I think we may need to take a couple-minute break and fix the issue before we move forward. Apologies, it's just a technical thing that's going on.
Okay, well, let's take a break until, for at least 5 minutes while the tech is being dealt with, and a little longer if it needs to be, so.
All right, thank you.
You got it. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bring this meeting back to order. Because of the technical difficulties and the folks on Zoom who were unable to hear or hear in a very muffled way, we are going to, in essence, restart a portion of this meeting. So we are going to start with the Boomers Family Rides Permit Amendment and have Carol redo the a brief presentation. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. We're going to actually give everyone one more chance at public comment in case they were not allowed to get, in case they were unable to get through. Again, reminder, this is for items not on tonight's agenda. If you wish to talk to an item on tonight's agenda, we will get to that. This is general public comment. If anyone wishes to be heard, please raise your hand now, or if you're on the phone, press *9. Thank you.
Great. And once again, this is for items not on the agenda. So if you want to comment on things not on the agenda out there in Zoom land, now would be the time to do it. We good, Kathleen?
I don't
Okay.
see any questions.
Okay, then we are going to move on to item number 1 again, Boomers Family Rides Permit Amendment at 2250 North Prescott Lane, and we will hear from Carol again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Carol Zizenhenny. I'll be presenting Boomers Family Rides at 2250 North Prescott Lane. This is a request to remove an existing kiddie go-kart track and install 3 mechanical amusement rides at Boomers. This is an amendment to the original approval by the Planning Commission from 1989, so this project amends that original permit. The project site is located on North Prescott Lane between Prescott Lane and the Highway 101 Broadway interchange. It's directly between the Filipino Community Center and the future location of the Carpenters Union Training Center. It's right by Prescott Park. The property is within a planned development general commercial district, right next to other commercial districts, public facilities district, and across the street is a single-family residential zone as well. This is an overview of the project site as shown right now today. There's a parking lot with 120 spaces, go-kart track, batting cages. The project under tonight's agenda is within this yellow rectangle here, right next to the arcade building and bumper cars. There is no change to the rest of the project site. Highway 101, again, is off to the right here. There are no proposed changes to the paving of the project, but the picnic area is proposed to be removed to make room for the new rides. So here is a view of the project site with an aerial. You can see the arcade building here. No flat work is proposed to remove, just the bumper rails, picnic umbrella, a light pole, and landscaping and flat work is proposed to remain. The rides proposed are the Teacup Ride, Minor Mike's, and Jumpin' Star. I'll just go quickly through the rides themselves. One is more of a spin ride, total height of about 12 feet, diameter of a little less than 30 feet. I was told by the applicant that these are actual photos of the rides themselves, but in different locations, not in Santa Maria. The attractions are certified by the state of California and are inspected annually. They are drawn by an engineer and require a building permit prior to installation. This is Minor Mike's. The ride goes around in an oval circular motion, goes up about 4 feet, can fit about 12 passengers on board. This is the Jumpin' Star ride. The ride goes laterally towards up and down. Total height of the gondola is about 18 feet. An acoustical analysis was prepared for the project. 3 locations for microphones to collect the bass ambient noise levels at each location. to give it like a baseline to study the effects of the proposed project were taken. So these are the maximum noise levels, I believe, over averaged out over the course of the study time. One of them is directly next to the loudest attraction, which is the go-karts, and then two right next to the sensitive receptors at the residential. This is a table showing the rides adjusted to the level that they would be at the residences, again, across Prescott Lane here. In the parentheses along this table, this is being the loudest that the rides would get at the residences. This is the maximum that the city allows for noise levels. That or above at the ambient base level. So the decibels collected here would also count towards preventing or negating a noise violation in the city of Santa Maria. So according to the noise study, the noise engineers did not conclude that the proposed rides would be expected to exceed any applicable City of Santa Maria noise standards, nor would the rides be louder than the existing ambient noise levels within the project vicinity. Therefore, the project will not pose any negative noise impacts to the nearby residences or the Filipino Community Center. That concludes staff's presentation. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission by motion approve Plan Development Permit Amendment A 2021-0002. Staff is available for questions, as is the applicant.
Thank you, Carol. Are there any questions of staff at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Carol, what are the hours of operation?
The hours of operation, that's a very good question. I have that here. It's between, well, I'll let the applicant speak to that.
Hello, my name is Naveed with Boomers Parks. So we have two different hours of operation. Monday through Thursday, we close at 9 p.m. Friday, Saturday, we close at 11. Sundays 9.
Thank you. And the reason I was asking, because I think there's a decrease in the allowable noise levels past 10 o'clock. And will these rides be going past 10 o'clock, or?
These are mostly like kiddie rides, and a lot of times past 9 p.m., most families are gone, and they're not going to be on these kiddie rides.
But the ride will still be in operation? So the noise study was done for the operational use of the ride, including passengers screaming or what have you?
That is correct.
Okay. And then my second question is, the 26-foot high ride, is that proposed to be lit until what hours?
To the closing time,
So that'd be 11 Friday through Sunday?
to Saturday.
Through Saturday. Okay. Was there any study done on light pollution?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Yeah, sure. I have a question, maybe for staff. Carol, on the table for noise, you had individual noise levels for each ride. Is there a table, or is there any difference in combining the three rides at the same time for noise level? Is there a different table for that, or does that make a difference for the acoustics?
I'm not an acoustic engineer, so I can't speak to that confidently. I would assume that combined, it could be louder cumulatively.
I mean, I think that'd be important to know. So, I mean, because they'll be running at the same time, I would assume. So, okay, thank you.
Carol, I had a noise question as well. It's more of a clarification. Our code is based on a 30-minute average. So that spread that we have here, or the peak numbers that we showed in the previous slide, that is for the average of things. So if it's an average, and that must mean there's also a spike in these noises that's higher substantially, not higher substantially, whatever. Do you happen to have what the actual spread is?
So the maximum noise, I believe, let me just confirm. So it would be a 1 minute duration, and that would be the maximum noise level that one can expect within 1 minute. And that is 75 decibels. And each of these rides were measured and calculated at the locations shown on the map to be at these levels. The rides themselves are, the acoustics are in the staff report. They have, or in the packet in the staff report for the rides themselves at 10 feet away, if you're interested in looking at that.
Okay. And is there a comparison for what's currently replacing the previous rides that they were that they have? Do you have an acoustic sampling of that?
Yes.
And as a comparison?
So the baseline level of noise was collected at this location, which is directly across. It's about 170 feet away from the smaller kiddie rides. I would presume that the full-size go-karts would be louder, and this was the highest collected decibel level at that location of the existing site when Boomers is in operation.
Once again, is a 30-minute average?
Yes, so that was the highest. Let me see if I can find that in this study here. So the highest level overall in the hours of operation studied was about 77.8 decibels. That would be the spike.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any further questions this time? Okay, then I think we can turn over to the applicant and see if the applicant has any presentation or what they would like to say. So, sir, if you could provide your name and address for the record.
Sure.
And there you go.
My name is Navid Tayyebi. I work for Boomers Parks. I'm the Director of Maintenance. Location based out of Irvine, 3405 Microsoft Drive, Irvine, California, 92618. These rides are very fun for families, for kids. They are very attractive to younger family members, and they are very, very safe. We do have annual inspections for the state of California. We also have third-party inspection that's done every year for these rides. Also, we have certified maintenance staff and certified ride operators who can operate these rides. So overall, I believe these rides are very good for city of Santa Maria, and it would just help families come together, play in a fun, safe environment.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant at this time? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I guess we will open this up now for public comment. No slips, Kathleen? That's for 3. Okay. Is there anything on Zoom? And has anybody got their hand raised? No? Okay. Okay, then we will go ahead and close the public comment and bring it back to the commission for any discussions or motions or that sort of thing. So, do any of the commissioners have anything they'd like to comment on?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm just a little concerned on the lighting aspect. As we change hour here this coming month, and they're going to be lit up. I don't know what the intensity is, what lumens are at X amount of feet, but for a 26-foot-high sign, essentially, how would it impact the neighbors to the west? So that, I would like to know more information on that.
Okay. Commissioner Blunt.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Yeah, I have similar concern, and also I think the noise level situation, just to have a little bit more of an assessment of a cumulative noise level, maybe an explanation as to does the noise level get drowned out by other noise? But it seems to me like there's a little bit more analysis that needs to be done, or at least explained to us, so that we can understand a cumulative noise situation from the proposed project. So I think that information will be important for us to be able to make a good decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have my concerns, and it's not a matter that I'm a hard no on it or yes on anything. I just need more information. I need information is what Commissioner Lopez brought up about the brightness of that signage, as well as I would like to know what the combined total is on the noise as well. So with that in mind, I think it doesn't seem like the commissioners are in a position to move forward yet, because we have some additional things. So if somebody would like to make a motion, maybe to reschedule where we can get that additional information, so then we can readdress that and just have a full understanding, then I think that would be the way to go. Somebody want to do that? Is that how we would move forward with this?
Chair Dickerson and Commissioners, in looking at dates, if you would like to do a continuance, November 3rd is available. I was going to ask the applicant, though, if November 3rd would work for you.
Sure.
Okay.
Do we hear a motion?
I would like to move that we continue this item to November 3rd, pending additional information regarding lighting intensity and additional noise evaluation.
Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you in November.
I'd like to state for anybody who's listening, this item will not be renoticed since it was continued to a date certain. So if you're interested in this item, please make note.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, Sunset Recycling Center Plan Development Permit and Conditional Use Permit at 1465 South Broadway. I think Cody's up for that, isn't he? Yeah.
All right, yes, thank you for the introduction, Chair Dickerson. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Cody Graybell. I'm an associate planner with the city. Tonight I'll be presenting the Sunset Recycling Center Plan Development Permit and Conditional Use Permit at 1465 South Broadway. This would be establishing a buyback recycling center. So the project generally, it's in the central part of the city, and it's between West Stoll Road and West Enos Drive to the north and south, and between South Broadway and South Depot Street to the east and west. And the area has generally been built out with a mix of commercial and residential development. Let's see, 1 second here. Okay, great. And the project site itself is within the Santa Maria Shopping Center. It's a 19.62 acre site, and it's specifically next to the Foods Co. grocery store and gas station. So it's at the southern end of the shopping center. So the facility would be right next to this stop sign that's being displayed on the site photo, and it's approximately 50 feet set back from South Broadway. The facility itself is zoned PDC1, or Plan Development Central Business District, and is surrounded by a mix of mostly commercial and residential zoning. So the facility itself would really have two different components. The first component is being shown with this isometric view, and that's the public kiosk. And then the elevations that we're looking at on the top of the screen help clarify the second component. There's actually metal storage containers that jut out just past the public kiosk itself, and they would store the different materials that I'm going to discuss coming up in a couple slides. And staff has asked that planters be placed next to the metal storage containers themselves to help screen the facility. And then the facility would also incorporate a tile roof, which helps tie in with the existing material of the shopping center itself. And then at the bottom of this slide here, there's a couple different site plan layouts, and particularly the display on the right, it helps clarify the number of parking spaces that would be needed. Approximately 6 spaces would be required for this proposal, so 4 would be needed for the actual facility, and then 2 more spaces would be needed for the customer queuing and, just the general prep areas prior to the transactions occurring and the materials being loaded into the metal storage containers. So this is just an example of a facility. At the front, we can see there's a public kiosk, and then at the back would have, the metal storage containers themselves. So something very similar would be installed. And just running through some of the operational requirements, this facility would only accept California redemption value beverages. So these are glass, aluminum, and plastic containers. And the facility would be regulated by CalRecycle, and it would comply with the California Beverage Container Recycling and Litter Reduction Act. The hours of operation would be 7 days a week, and it would be from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. during the weekdays, and then from 9 a.m. to 4 on the weekend. And there would be one on-site employee that's trained to implement the maintenance plan that Sunset Recycling requires, and this would include daily cleaning and just really daily maintenance of the facility, walking the site and making sure everything's in order. And the storage bins, they would be exchanged as needed, so this would help prevent any overflow from, inadvertently having a, filled up container. So just wrapping up here, staff recommends that the Planning Commission by motion conditionally approve Plan Development Permit PD 2021-0009 and Conditional Use Permit U 2021-0005. That concludes staff's presentation. Myself and the applicant are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Commissioners, any questions for staff at this time? No? Okay, seeing none, is the applicant here, and do they want to make a presentation?
Chair Dickerson, Cody's let me know that the applicant is on Zoom.
Okay,
So if he wants to go ahead and raise his hand, then we can unmute him on Zoom to speak.
Kathleen, you're up to bat.
And I should mention, if you're on the phone, you can press *9, and then that will raise your hand.
Asked to unmute. So you can go ahead and speak. I said asked to unmute, right? You can go ahead and speak.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, sorry about that. Good evening, City of Santa Maria Planning Commission. My name is Artashas Balian. I'm actually the applicant for this proposal. We're actually one of the largest recycling facilities in the state of California. We provide recycling services throughout California for small beverage containers, servicing our grocer partners and neighboring property managers. I know the city of Santa Maria is severely underserved, and I know they need recycling services over there because it's very limited. Matter of fact, I believe there is no recycling centers near the area serving any of the convenience zone that the supermarkets provide. So in conjunction with the supermarkets, we serve all and plenty of the supermarket sites throughout California. And I would love to provide that service in Santa Maria. If you guys have any questions, I would love to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do the commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I do.
Commissioner Lopez?
Thank you. Yes, sir. I wanted to ask, is there any infrastructure related to this project? Because there going to be power washing, I'm going to say beverages
Oh, yes,
or,
absolutely, absolutely.
what's that?
Yes, of course. We will make sure we have an actual team that goes around, just a power washing team that just cleans our facilities.
No, but in terms of where does that water go to when it's power washed? Does it go to some sort of interceptor, or is it just?
Yeah, so we actually use, good question. So we actually use biodegradable soap, so it's actually good for the plants and the environment. We also have suction devices that suction out per the stormwater requirement, so it doesn't go inside the drain or damage any of our lands and communities. Absolutely.
Okay. And my last question is, was there any thought given to a different location instead of the intersection there? It's like a 6-way intersection. There's drive aisles that go in there. There's cross traffic, and then there's exiting and ingress and egress at that location. And I use it all the time. It's kind of tough to maneuver at times. Is there any thought to potentially moving it elsewhere?
So what ended up happening at this location is the Foods Co. Is the one that needed the services there, and the Foods Co. and the landlord decided that spot is going to be the best possible location because the landlord also wanted the recycling facility. Because Foods Co. requested the recycling facility, they needed as close as possible to them. Usually all of our locations is never away from the grocery market, and it's never in the back or like all the way on the other side, because one, for the safety of the recycling center, and also the foods company doesn't want anything or any type of anchor tenant in the shopping center. They don't want anything to happen and abut the traffic of the truck drivers, which that usually tends to happen when there's recycling centers in the back of the centers. So one is the safety, and two is the trucks coming in and out. The easier of ingress, egress, it's not possible. So usually Food for Less, Ralph's, Kroger Company as a whole, even Costco, whenever we go in for this location, it's usually always in the front.
Okay,
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Blanco, do you have anything?
Well, I had the same questions. I think it's been answered as far as location. It's interesting that it'd be prominent in the very front of a very busy plaza. Don't know how that really makes a lot of sense when trucks already go in the back for delivery. So that's a little bit interesting to me. But I do have a question regarding the backside of the containers. Look like they're going to face Broadway, and so those are not screened. Is that correct?
Well, no, we're going to screen that entire side, but the back, the only problem in screening the back is we need the truck drivers to, have adequate space also to pull out the containers when it's full. So I can easily turn the unit facing the street so it looks much nicer. That's what I was actually going to propose to, if that's of a concern, where we can switch it, and it will be the opposite way around. So the kiosk unit faces the street, not the container. That we can do, of course.
That just makes a little bit more sense to me. So I think that would be a good idea, at least from my standpoint. Thank you.
I totally agree with you, and I will take care of it. I do agree with you, and good thing you brought that up, because that is a better idea. Yes.
Thank you.
Sir, the question I have for you kind of follows up on Commissioner Lopez's question, and that is, would Food Co. and the landlord, would they be open to putting this on the backside of the facility? Rather than...
So yeah, that the backside, that is of an actual big essence of an issue, and we've experienced that firsthand, especially with the Foods Co. being in the back. It just, it attracts, sometimes crime, homeless people, transients. Not only that, it's just a nightmare. we had a location before on the side of the Vallarta supermarket, not in Santa Maria in the valley. And usually when it's in the back, these truck drivers, they really need an adequate amount of space for their vendors, for their truck drivers to pull in and out. And sometimes the drivers won't want to come in there because they'll use, for example, me as an excuse that, I don't want to hit them or this, that. So legally, from a legal standpoint as well, it wouldn't make sense for Food for Less to put it in the back of the center. So these discussions are always made, and that's why Foods Company, and I'm happy to address it, and that's why Food for Less, Foods Company doesn't allow, 99.9% of the time recycling centers to be in the back, because sometimes it doesn't just affect their stores, it can affect obviously the other truck drivers or the other tenants that are there. But usually from statistical standpoint, operating over 25, 30 years, centers in the front are definitely deemed more safe, and it doesn't cause any issues. It's always much safer because there's no crime, there's too much visibility. The sites that we've had in the past on the side towards the freeway, not even in the back, tend to attract, crime here and there sometimes. So for the safety of the recycling center, safety of the operation flow of Foods Company, that was the decision for us to be operating over there in the front. And it's really presentable. We use state-of-the-art equipment that sometimes even looks nicer than some of the tenants that are in the shopping center. So because of those reasons, we usually always operate these in the front, and it works like a charm, whereas if you're in the back and then one day we have to come back again because things are not working. So the landlord and not only the landlord, but the Foods Co want to avoid any of those types of circumstances and situations. So with that being said, those are the reasons why most of the time you won't see recycling centers, or especially Sunset Recycling Center, operating in the back of Foods Co.
Okay.
Even if we have Costco locations where we're almost like right in front of the door, Costco doesn't even want anything to do with the back. We've had that talk in another jurisdiction as well, and they did understand that.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions for the applicant? No? All right, thank you very much. Then, are there any slips for, I'll bring it to public comments? No? And if there's anybody out there on Zoom that would like to comment on this particular item, number 2, now would be the time to raise your hand. Do we have any comments, Kathleen? You see none? Okay. Okay, seeing none, then I will bring it back to the commission for comments or for questions of staff. Commissioner Blanco, would you like to, do you have any comments or questions of staff?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, no other questions. I just think, in my opinion, it just seems like it's not the best place for a recycling center. I understand what the applicant was trying to say. I don't know that I agree with it. Safety-wise, if your hours of operation are middle of the day, don't know what kind of threat would be posed middle of the day for staff. And if you're able to put it somewhere else, you don't have to do a lot of aesthetic treatments and concealing. So really would reduce your cost quite a bit, I would think. So, and in an area this area is very, very busy with traffic, people trying to get in and out of not only the store, but the gas station at an intersection that's like a 6-way intersection. Not ideal for circulation and not ideal for trucks picking up materials either. I see that as a hazard, actually, more than anything else. So I have some concerns with it. I think there's a better location for it, and I'm having a hard time with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Lopez?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Commissioner Blanco. I'd have a tough time supporting it where it is. I think that the containers that stick out beyond the kiosk, you can kind of screen them with the landscaping, but it's in such a prominent location on the main thoroughfare in the city. I'm having a real hard time finding a way to support this project. Thank you.
I have a difficult time adding to what Commissioners Blanco and Lopez said because I agree with everything they've said. I could not support this this particular project where it's currently located. There is the aesthetics of being right there prominently on Broadway. Then there's the safety issue. I drive in that parking lot and I exit onto Broadway probably 4 times at least a week. Community Bank is over there and several other businesses. It is always squirrely. I mean, it is just always squirrely. And adding yet another element of people wandering around, trucks wandering around, this or that. I mean, it is difficult to even navigate that thing to get back onto Broadway with the gas station there. So I almost cannot think of a worst spot, especially on that size of a piece of property for that particular item. So no, I could not support that. That isn't to say that if we figured out some place that was different on that piece of property or on the back or any other permutation that was not impacted by all the additional traffic and the people and whatnot, that I wouldn't support that down the road. But right there, it's horrible. So anyway, I will call for, see if anybody wants to put a motion forward. And I guess if we don't put a motion, how does this work exactly, Heather?
This is Heather Whittam, Assistant City Attorney. From what we've heard from the deliberations, it doesn't sound like this project is really ready for an approval from your body. You may want to see if the applicant would be interested in having you continue it, if the applicant is willing to meet with staff on maybe a different location or making modifications that would make this, that would address some of the concerns that you all have raised. I guess I would look to Ms. Edie to see if she thinks that that's a good idea, and if so, we could ask the applicant if they'd be interested in continuing it.
Would that be a date uncertain and would be renoticed, or are we talking about, because it sounds like it's going to be a pretty substantial?
Yeah, it would probably be a date uncertain, but I think we should get some input from Ms. Edie.
Dana?
Well, I think I'd first like to hear from the applicant on whether they are willing to make changes to the location on the property and consider that. If they are, we may be able to come back on November 3rd. I'm speaking with staff. It sounded like that might be a possibility. We'd have to get some updated plans, from the applicant and meet with them.
Okay. Sir, are you open to discussing with staff moving the project somewhere else on the land, and you can work that out with staff?
Yes, I don't mind doing it. We do take a lot of time before we decide where to put these things, and I have experience firsthand. And would you guys be able to give us that opportunity to show that this is a good location? And then we could come back in a year, and if you guys have any problems then, I can show this to Foods Company and the landlord. Because I know if I go back to them, they took a really long time for them to decide this location. Because Foods Company didn't want it in the back, and landlord wanted it as close to Foods Company because I'm working with Foods Co. So the Foods Company took this to the landlord. And that's how that's how Foods Company got the landlord, or else the landlord would have never even
Okay, so sir, the staff has talked about continuing this to the November 3rd meeting. Does that work for you?
Chair, I'm sorry, I just wanted to jump in. I actually think based on potential negotiations that may need to occur between Foods Co. and Sunset, it would be better to continue it off calendar and renotice it when we're ready to come back. Because I don't know that we'll be able to accomplish all of that in about 2 weeks.
I think that sounds reasonable.
Thank you.
All right. So, sir, we're going to, since you're willing to talk with staff, we'll go ahead and continue this to a date uncertain, and you can talk to staff and discuss that. And and then it'll be renoticed down the road when everything has been worked out slightly differently. Does that work for you?
That works for me. Can I ask you guys one more question?
Sure.
Just thinking right off the bat, out of my head, I know if I presented this to Foods Co., I'm not sure what will happen, but what if we were to move it about 3-4 stalls more towards the Foods Company? Would that be more feasible for the Planning Commission?
I think it'd probably be better not to negotiate those at this time. Let's have you talk to staff and work through that, and then maybe staff might be able to reach out to us and whatnot and see exactly things. So I think it's better to have you discuss that with staff. All righty?
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so I need a motion to reconsider this at a date uncertain down the road.
Mr. Chairman, can I add something?
Yes, sir.
Maybe even a study session would be
Oh, that'd be a
something
good idea.
that we could look at. And,
Yeah.
so-
Does that work for staff?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Actually, we would be continuing this public hearing, so we would keep it in this forum. But the motion would be to continue to a date uncertain. The applicant will work with staff. Hopefully, they can come up with a location that addresses the concerns you've raised, and it will come back before you.
Mr. Chairman, with that said, I'd like to make a motion to continue the Sunset Recycling Center Plan Development Permit and Conditional Use Permit at 1465 South Broadway to a date uncertain.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. All right. Number 3, People's Self-Help Housing General Plan Amendment and Zone Change at 3170 Santa Maria Way. And looks like Frank's at the bat on this one.
So Chair and Commissioners, before Mr. Alvaro begins his presentation, I do have an announcement to make. I have to recuse as staff from this item. I own property within 500 feet of one of the property lines, so I'm just going to leave the hearing and be out in the hallway, and when you're done, I'll come back in for the last item. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the Commission, my name is Frank Albro. I am the Principal Planner for the City of Santa Maria. And as you noted, I'm going to be presenting the People Self-Help General Plan Rezone application. So again, this is an application for a land use map amendment, general plan amendment, and zone change on an 8.89 acre site. And the proposal is to change the zoning of the current site, which is currently commercial, to a residential zone that would support the future development and future applications for single-family residential development. The project site is the location of the currently existing Highway Drive-In movie theater. The site, as many of us know, is generally flat, nearly entirely paved, and it does have some trees along some of the perimeters, but that is primarily the extent of the existing landscape on the site. The project is surrounded on almost all sides by residential development. To the north is the Rolling Hills Estates, and to the east is Sunrise Hills development. To the south is a mobile home park that is within Santa Barbara County jurisdiction, and the residential that is on the west side of Santa Maria Way is also within Santa Barbara County jurisdiction. Both of those properties, however, are zoned residential. So here you see a graphic depicting the general plan land use classifications. As you can see, the properties to the north and east and partially to the west are low density residential 4. To the south of the project, the general plan designation is low density 8. And those numbers indicate the number of units, maximum number of units per acre. So as you can see, the current designation, land use designation of the site is the red color, which is community commercial. And the proposal is to change that to low, medium density 8, which would match the designation to the south. And it would provide a better transition between the existing land uses than the commercial zone. And I'll switch back here. So if this theater does sell, as the property owner has indicated they do want to, this site could develop it as a commercial project. It would require a plan development permit, as would any future residential on this site. But staff's opinion and recommendation is that the commercial designation of this site would cause future impacts to the existing residential neighborhoods surrounding it. So here we see the zoning, which is corresponding to the land use designations. And again, this is partially part of the application is to change the zoning of the site as well. So you can see that the sites to the north and east and partially to the west are PD R1 6500. So in this case, it's plan development. R1 is single family zoning, and the 6500 indicates the minimum lot size. Further to the north is the Northman development that recently went through maybe a couple of years ago, and it's PDR1 10,000, so larger lots than either the Rolling Hills or Sunrise Hills subdivisions. And then the developments across Santa Maria Way and the mobile home park is not within city zoning, so those designations are not shown. The proposal is to change this to PDR1. The typical lot size within this designation would be 6,000 square feet for an internal lot. That requirement goes up to 7,000 square feet for corner lots. So here is a concept. Actually, let me step back. So this is the application. It's to change the site, the land use and zoning designation to single-family residential. This is the entirety of what is before the commission tonight. We do not have a subdivision map. We do not have a plan development permit application. And both of those applications would be required before any residential development occurs on this property. A subdivision map, of course, would be necessary to create the lots that the homes would be constructed on. The plan development permit would look at the landscaping and architectural aesthetics of what's proposed. So with that, that is all we're looking at. The development, any future development could develop under the R1. Again, subdivision map would go to the planning commission. Plan development permit would go before the planning commission. And that is basically where we are at with this development. The applicant, People Self-Help Housing, chose to approach this process with separate applications. We typically will process those things simultaneously, so the commission can see what the subdivision is going to be looking like and see what the architecture will be looking like. And while each one of those is a separate action, it's typically presented all as one. In this case, the applicant felt it be a best approach and the most fiscally conservative approach for their application process to make sure that they're successful with the general plan and rezone before they move on to expend funds on creating a subdivision map, creating architectural designs, and so forth. However, being that this project did need to be analyzed for its potential impacts, the applicant did provide a concept, and this is the concept that they are considering. I want to reiterate that this is not what we're approving, and something else might come back to us, but the applicant is interested in creating a subdivision with 49 residential homes and one additional lot for open space and drainage. You can see the internal street layout proposed. The access way, vehicular access way, will be solely from Santa Maria Way. While there is a close connection to the cul-de-sac within the existing subdivision to the north, there would be no vehicular connection through, so the traffic would not be going through that existing neighborhood. And so this is the concept, and again, I can't reiterate this enough, this subdivision map, if this is what the proposal will look like, will come back to Planning Commission and be subject to Planning Commission's review and approval. In this case, the applicant is proposing some of the lots be smaller in size than the standard, and our zoning ordinance allows that to happen, and it does happen on a regular basis where applicants will ask for that. In those cases, however, the Planning Commission will not only be will be one part of the approval. Planning Commission will be making a recommendation to City Council regarding that subdivision map, if this is the map that comes forward. And in addition, like I mentioned before, there will be a plan development permit for the typical architecture, the typical landscaping, and so forth. This is what the CEQA document used to analyze the proposed land use change as a reasonable expectation for a development under the R1 zone, which is being considered tonight. I do want to mention that we did receive a number of letters, many of which, all except for one, was in opposition of the project. We have received also a couple of phone calls this afternoon, questions about the project, also folks that were not in favor of the potential that this could be an affordable development. People Self-Help Housing does affordable projects, and that also is their proposal as a concept, that what they intend to build is 49 single-family affordable homes. Their concept is that these homes will be built with the sweat equity of the future owners. But again, that's all future potential, and none of that is being decided upon or ruled upon this evening. So with that, the recommendation from city staff is that the Planning Commission take the following actions. Recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution to adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring program for the proposed project, and by resolution, recommend that the City Council approve the general plan land use map amendment and zone change. And that concludes staff's presentation, and I am open for any questions. I would like to note that the applicant, Cheryl Flores, representing People Self-Help, is in attendance tonight and is ready to also respond to the commission's questions.
Thank you very much, Frank. Do we have any questions of staff at this time? Commissioner Blanco?
No, not at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Lopez?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Frank, I have a couple questions. With respect to the existing zoning, is there a maximum density for residential on the existing zoning?
So the existing zoning is PD C2. The only method to achieve residential on the C2 zone would either be through an efficiency unit project or through the mixed-use ordinance. The mixed-use ordinance, you could mix residential designations, but the density would then fall to the residential density that you've chosen to mix into the C2. There could be a potential that a mixed-use project comes forward with wanting to mix with high-density residential. 22 dwelling units per acre could be a potential. All of those scenarios, however, would require a plan development permit and planning commission review and approval, and possibly city council review and approval as well, depending on the details of the development proposed.
And the efficiency dwelling unit?
Plan development permit would be required.
Okay, but there's no maximum density with respect to an efficiency dwelling unit project?
That is correct.
So it can be 100, 200 units?
That is correct.
Okay. And then with the conceptual layout of the PDR1, there's always the potential for accessory dwelling unit, which would make it 2 dwelling units per residential lot?
That is correct. As I mentioned, the applicant is in attendance. My understanding is the applicant is going to maintain some level of control over these units, but state law, I'm not sure how that state law might interact with the applicant. I know state law is rather overriding almost all other provisions regarding when it comes to ADUs. So city ordinances and so forth, we have to comply with state law, and that may be the same for the applicant as well, even though they may maintain control at some level of the subdivision. So essentially, yes, garages might be converted. There might be the possibility of junior ADUs, but I'll let the applicant, if they have further information, speak to that as well.
And then one last thing is recent legislation, which goes into effect January 1st, would allow for the building of 2 dwelling units on this single-family residential lot, up to 4 if they're able to split that lot, correct?
Correct. My understanding of that, and I don't have a thorough understanding of that new legislation quite yet, but my understanding is that it is quite difficult to actually split lots that are single-family sized. These are actually even smaller than the standard. I don't expect that splitting would actually be possible, but perhaps a couple of the lots might be able to accommodate an additional unit as a separate structure. Now, the one caveat is, again, the zoning and general plan land use is only looking at R1. All my responses have been based off of this concept, which again, we're not approving tonight. So it's a little bit open as to what might happen. The designation, the 8 units per acre, could result in up to 71 lots on this property, theoretically. However, when we calculate density just based on the maximums, it's not taking into account roadway width, area needed for drainage, and you start to deduct all of those items, And you can see this is a quite full development. There's not a lot of extra space here. And they're only able to get 49 single-family residential units. Staff does not believe that much more or many more are possible under the R1 zoning, even though the conceptual density possible under the general plan would be 8 dwelling units per acre. It likely would never be able to approach that. But that, again, does not include ADUs. And with the state ever furthering housing interests and adding more and more legislation that is increasing density on what was single-family properties, it's very hard to predict what might happen in the future. So I hope that answers your
Yeah,
question.
absolutely
I know that
does.
was a little rambling. but
Mr. Chair.
Lots of details there.
Thank you, Frank.
Yes, ma'am.
If I could just add on a little bit to that. Commissioner Lopez's questions and concerns regarding ADUs and SB 9, the new legislation that allows a single residential lot to be split into two, that would apply to residential lots everywhere within the city. So that would be nothing specific to this. We're seeing ADUs popping up everywhere. And as Frank or Mr. Albro articulated, that's all state law that there's really nothing we can do about. So that is an issue that we are facing with all of our residential lots.
Thank you very much. Further, Commissioner Lopez, or no?
Chair, sorry, I do have a question after all. So Frank, my understanding of reading the MND on the traffic analysis side, that the project, because it was contemplated as, or at least presented in the analysis as an affordable project, was exempt from VMT requirements. And so with that, it sort of locked in the scenario for that situation. If for whatever reason the project does not move forward as an affordable development in the future, what impact does that have to an analysis that was done for a different scenario where VMT could be different and the impacts could be much different?
Right, and that's another aspect of having used this concept for the environmental analysis. If, for whatever reason, this particular project layout does not come to us, if for whatever reason it turns out not to be affordable, and now I'm assuming the general plan land use and zoning approval to R1, if something other than what is shown here comes to us through the subdivision map application, that will need a reanalysis under CEQA. Some of the things that were covered might not rise to the level of needing another analysis, but that would likely be one of the items that would need to be redone, is the VMT, or vehicle miles traveled. Because as you note, affordable projects are automatically, that requirement is waived essentially for affordable projects, with the understanding that affordable projects have less impact on VMT. So that would have to be reanalyzed if we did receive something well, not even significantly, maybe even just slightly different than what this project is applying for, as in terms of its concept of being an affordable 49-lot single-family subdivision.
Thanks, Frank. Thank you.
Frank, following up on Commissioner Lopez's stuff on SB 9 and 10, SB 9 and 10 would not be applicable if we kept it at the current zoning that it's at. Is that correct? PDC 2, or would it?
I believe That is correct. Again, I don't have a lot of information about that current legislation.
Okay.
But being that this is a commercially zoned property,
As to SB 9, that would be correct. SB 9 only applies to single-family residential zones, so would not apply to a commercial. SB 10, I'm not as familiar about. SB 10 has to do with increasing density if you're near a transit district. I don't know if this is near a transit district. And SB 10 is something that I believe a city, it's an option a city may choose to elect, and I don't know where we stand with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's say for AB 9, train of thought here. If we allow this to go to R1 and they decided to implement anything from the ADUs to the SB 9 splits, do we have, I know the answer certainly for the ADUs, but do we have this body, would it have any ability to put the brakes on increasing density like that? Or at that point, it would just, we'd be
So
screwed?
there's kind of multiple steps going on here. If any single-family residential lot anywhere in the city would like to do an ADU, you have no review. It's done completely ministerially at the planning department. If anybody wants to do the SB 9 split, that's also ministerial, done at the planning department. So what's before you tonight is just keep it commercial or go residential single-family. And what the residential would look like, as has been stated, would come back before you at a later time for a plan development permit, potential additional CEQA review. But at that time, again, whatever you approved, you would not have say over ADUs or SB 9 splits. Those would be done ministerially at the counter.
So if we
And
want,
that's state law. That's,
Right.
our hands are tied, and that's nothing that cities can do about it.
right. So to kind of reiterate, if we allowed to go to an R1, but without a subdivision map, then a subdivision map could be presented to us down the road that does split those and increases the density beyond beyond this.
The subdivision would have to come back to you.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But at that point, if they didn't want to do this subdivision, they wanted to double it.
There is no commitment to this. This is just a concept.
Right,
So anything could come back.
Yeah.
And if it's a tentative map, or a plan development permit, it would have to come before you. And yes, it might look like this, it might look different. At that time, the public, it would be a public hearing, everybody would have an opportunity to comment on the project.
But with AB 9, we may not have any ability to say yay or nay to certain elements of it, lot splitting and things like that.
Certain elements that would happen after you've done your part, correct?
Right.
and if I may, my assumption about the law is that it only applies to single-family lots until the subdivision map is reviewed by Planning Commission as a tentative map, and then reviewed again to create a final map that then gets approved by City Council, and then finally recorded. You're not going to have a single-family lot to split under AB 9. So the commission won't see those splits if they were to occur. The commission would only see the initial subdivision of the property into single-family lots.
That's correct. And just to add one more thing, for everybody who's concerned about SB 9, you might want to actually, the public, take a close look at it, because it does not effective until 2022, January, and kind of the initial reports on it was that every single-family lot could split into two, which then could add an ADU, maybe even a junior ADU. Now you're at 4 units, maybe 6. If you read the legislation carefully, I found that it's not going to be as prevalent as people think, because as Mr. Albro discussed, there are still lot size requirements that you have to meet that a lot of properties won't be able to. And one I was not familiar with just from reading the newspaper, I believe it also states that whoever does that split must live in one of the units. So you're not going to have a developer do 49 lot splits because he can't live in 49 places. So there is an ownership requirement that you must live on the property for 3 years. So there are some safeguards or some impediments, however you look at it. There are a lot of particulars to that legislation that we'll all have to learn out as it rolls out.
When you say that the owner, in this case, would the owner be People's Self-Help Housing, or would they be somehow part owners with the residents, the people who are sweat equitying themselves into ownership of those homes?
Yeah, we're going way beyond with the hypothetical as far as what it would look like. I can't say because I have no idea how these lots eventually would be owned.
Yeah.
I don't know who would own them, but whoever is the owner, there is a provision about them occupying one of the units.
That's curious, because you opened the door, so it was like, yeah.
If I could just add
Yeah.
anecdotally that even with the ADU ordinance that the state enacted or legislation, there are still interpretations being issued by the state. We will contact, it's amazing how creative people can get in terms of applying for ADUs and how they might fit on a lot and so forth. And some situations just don't seem to fit within what the state created. And interpretations are continually coming out of HCD about the law, what it means, what the city can do, and how to apply it. I don't see that the current legislation will be any different. I think that it'll be discussed and mulled over and revised and thought about for many years to come.
And I'd like to add one thing, and then I'll be quiet to not belabor this any longer. There is another piece of legislation that I do not know the status of, that I believe modifies again the ADU legislation, that certain nonprofits, if properties owned by certain nonprofits, may be able to do ADUs without that owner requirement. But I don't know the status of it, and I don't know the particulars of it. So there are a lot of moving parts in this area.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's my question. Any further questions from commissioners? All right. Can we hear from the applicant? Yeah, there, she still has energy. She just kind of like ran up. That was great. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Cheryl Flores, I'm from People's Self-Help Housing, and I am not a resident of your lovely city. I get it. There are many people who like having the drive-in, but as we understand from the owners, the property has been for sale for several years, and no prospective buyer has shown any interest in operating the drive-in. With many virtual entertainment options developed in recent years, drive-ins may no longer be a viable business. So without a zone change from commercial to residential, the drive-in property may soon become a vacant, blighted site, or possibly developed with commercial businesses that may be far more disruptive to the surrounding residents than single-family homes. Affordable homes are greatly needed in your community, as you are aware. But tonight isn't about People's Self-Help Housing because you're only considering a zone change, not a project. If the zone change is approved, People's intends to develop the site with single-family homes affordable for low-income households to purchase. So I would like to share just a few facts about People's Self-Help Housing for those who are not familiar with our organization. People's is a community-based, 51-year-old nonprofit that operates in the 4 coastal counties from Monterey to Ventura. Our mission is to build affordable homes with site-based services that offer opportunities to change lives and strengthen communities on the Central Coast. People's has assisted over 1,200 low-income households to become successful homeowners. 90% of the homes that People's has assisted families to build in the last 25 years are still owned and occupied by the original homeowners. It's been nearly 30 years since we last assisted families to build homes in the city of Santa Maria. Back then, we worked with 70 households to build homes on North DeJoy and surrounding streets. This is a very successful program for first-time homeowners who otherwise may not have another opportunity to become homeowners. It allows for their sweat equity, their labor building their home and their neighbor's home to serve as their down payment to be able to afford a reasonably termed mortgage once the home is completed. People's has also developed and manages over 2,000 apartments in 55 complexes. You may be familiar with the recently completed Sierra Madre apartments for seniors, Valentine Court apartments also for seniors and the developmentally disabled, or the 3 Los Adobes de Maria apartments complexes for families around West Boone Street. We look forward to helping more Santa Maria families to fulfill their dreams of becoming homeowners. Thank you for your consideration. I would also like to comment about the ADU situation. If you have a 10,000 square foot lot, it's really easy to fit an ADU on and stay within the setbacks. But if you're trying to put an ADU on a 6,000 square foot lot, it becomes a whole lot harder to fit the ADU on the site logistically. So in a way, smaller lots will prohibit ADUs. And same thing with lot splits, because your lot splits also require setbacks. And it's kind of hard to achieve unless you're going 4 stories straight up to do any type of additional housing beyond your single-family residence. And People's, we pretty much build 1-story homes. We have built many 2 stories, but when you're working with people who aren't experienced at higher elevations, things go a lot faster when you build 1-story homes, so we do try to stick to 1 stories. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the applicant? No? Okay. Can you tell me what would be the impact if this body said, you know, we would really like to go the more traditional route and have you go back and submit both the subdivision maps and as well as the change in the zoning at the same time, if we wanted to see the package in its totality rather than doing it a piece at a time, what would be the impact?
We initially decided not to go that route because it would have cost us several $100,000 and probably another year to work through that process, to hire an engineer, do all the studies that are required, hire an architect, and go through the process. And frankly, as a nonprofit, we can't afford to take that risk. Also, we have an option to purchase the property. I don't know that the sellers would be willing to wait throughout that process. So probably would not work out.
Yeah. I mean, not to sound snarky, but I mean, they don't have a lot of people beating the doors down for the lot. Mm-hmm. So they might be able to. Okay, that's my question. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. Let's hear from the public at this point. We do have one person who's put in a slip, so we'll do the slip first, and then if there's any Zoom people, then we'll talk to that. Martin Indvik. So name and, yeah, he's got a slip here, and 3 minutes, please. You
Yes,
have.
indeed. My name is Martin Envick from San Luis Obispo, commercial real estate broker for Lee and Associates, and I'm here on behalf of the Highway Drive-In ownership, Cal Grant Properties. And I'd like to read a letter that was prepared by Diane Gran. Diane wrote this on September 23rd for you in the Planning Commission in regards to the pending sale of the drive-in theater. Diane says, I would like to take this opportunity to give you some information and my opinion regarding the sale of the Highway Drive-In Theater. My late husband and I owned the Highway for over 40 years. It used to be an economically viable business operation. Over the last few years, we have had to shut down the Sunday swap meet due to increased losses and operating costs, and we have seen our nightly movie business operation dwindle. At this time, we can only afford to be open 5 days a week. The increased competition of the Regal Edwards RPX 14-plex located in the Santa Maria Town Center, the surge in popularity of streaming services such as Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, etc., the release of movies on those streaming services at the same time they are released to movie distributors, along with the newest difficulty of hiring, retaining, and affording a workforce has caused the unfortunate demise of my business. My property as a theater business is not being used to its highest potential anymore. Over the years, the Highway has become surrounded by residential neighbors, and given our current housing shortage, the highest and best use for the property is residential. As I have explored the potential of selling my property, there has been no interest in it as a drive-in theater. The only interest and value of my property is for a residential purpose. Thank you for this opportunity to explain my current business situation. I am pleased with People's Self-Help Housing and their current proposal for my property. Please let me know if you have any questions regarding my business at this potential sale. Sincerely, Diane Grant. Thank you.
We have some Zoom attendees, is that correct, Kathleen?
Yes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have Kathleen Sharam. Once you start, Kathleen, you'll have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. I'm a resident of Santa Maria, and I just want to say my comments are pretty straightforward. Santa Maria desperately needs affordable housing. I've seen a lot of housing developments get approved, and a lot of them are not affordable. And I also like the fact that this is a reuse of land, and we're not taking further ag land to develop on. So to me, this is a great idea and a great use for this property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kathleen, the next person.
Yes. Let's see. Next, we have Brian Tetley. Brian, you have 3 minutes once you start.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Brian Tetley. I'm a resident of the city of Santa Maria, somewhat near the Highway Drive-In. Having grown up in Southern California at a time where drive-in theaters were commonplace, and having seen the trend of them going out of business or being replaced by strip malls and whatnot, I think it's lamentable that it looks like we're going to lose the Santa Maria Highway Drive-In Theater. It's one of the few remaining entertainment venues for families to get together and have a good time for a reasonable price. You go in the summer where the kids are out, and it's a good thing to see all those families are enjoying themselves. And although we lost the Park Air Drive-In up on Donovan years ago, now looks like the writing's on the wall on losing this one unless there's a white knight listening who wants to come swoop in and save the drive-in. I'm keeping hope for that. But in all seriousness, there's no villains here. People's Self-Help is a great organization. It's no doubt true. We need affordable housing throughout the state and in Santa Maria. And the owners of the drive-in are just doing what's best for them. So again, I just state it's lamentable. It's sad. And I just hope the city moving forward can identify additional low-cost family entertainment venues that the locals can enjoy and not just additional retail and housing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kathleen?
Okay. Crystal Ramirez. Did she go away? Crystal Ramirez, did you still want to speak?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, so sorry about that.
that's okay. You have 3 minutes.
Again, my name is Cristel Ramirez. I grew up in Santa Maria for most of my life. I absolutely love the city and I love its uniqueness, especially things like the highway drive-in that are currently here. I've actually come back and relocated back to Santa Maria after being in Orange County for 13 years. I was really excited to come back home, but at the same time, really sad at the lack of development, especially with those gems like the highway drive-in that we have here. I understand that we need government housing and that brings in sufficient and a lot of funds for the city. I also understand the owner's desire to sell and she needs to benefit from this as well. But I guess my comment is what type of collaboration is on the commission's mind? I wonder if the city would have collaborated with the drive-in way earlier, especially during a pandemic, maybe adding some features to the drive-in, whether it's something like a steel craft style dining outdoors, especially during a pandemic, multi-use attractions like for families, outdoor games. Could this have incentivized more patrons, more fun during a hard time, more city? But it seems like innovation kind of seems to be out of the window and it's really disheartening. And I agree with the gentleman before me, no one's the bad guy, but I think there's a box that we tend to kind of stick into in this town. And I love this city. Like I said, I was raised here, went to Santa Maria High, so I appreciate our gems that we have here. Again, if there is a white knight, I want to agree to that. Please save the drive-in, collaborate with the owner, make it profitable for the city, make it profitable for the owner. Let's keep up with the people who are here, but also who the next generation are, what they need and want. I know big box business and government subsidies are important, but they shouldn't be the only thing that matter. This city is truly beautiful and it's time, honestly, to get some work done. I mean, I know we have a development plan for downtown, but to be quite honest, I'm almost 40 years old and that plan has been talked about and paraded since I was in high school. So please, let's not lose the gems that we have, especially gems like the historic highway drive-in. Let's think about innovation. Let's collaborate with other maybe organizations who could use the highway drive-in and pay rent or anything like that. But those are just my comments. I'm really sad to see the drive-in go if we have to. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Kathleen, do we have additional people?
Yes.
How many more do we have?
3.
3 more, okay.
Bob Nelson, you have 3 minutes.
Bob?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this matter. My name is Bob Nelson. I'm a lifelong member of this community. I'm a member of the Board of Supervisors representing this area of Santa Maria, specifically at the county. But tonight I come here to speak on behalf of myself, my kids, my family, and hundreds of others in our community that have grown up in and around our treasured drive-in. The Highway Drive-In is a special place and one of the few recreational opportunities for families and youth in our valley. Drive-in theaters in general are becoming fewer and fewer. They're often coveted by developers and investors. Statewide, we only have 18 left, only 3 on the Central Coast and 2 in our county. Every community that loses a drive-in ends up regretting it. I also represent Lompoc, and I know they do. I acknowledge housing is important and needed, and there are many worthwhile projects moving forward in Santa Maria and Orchid, but housing without commercial and recreational resources failed to build community. Out of all due respect for the owners who claim they can't find anyone to run or buy the drive-in and that it's a failing business, I'm skeptical. They've made it clear that they're retiring and they need to sell. They have long been marketing this property as an investment, a great opportunity, a key infill site, potential senior housing, and that on the listing it also says the city of Santa Maria is encouraging a potential shift to residential development here. I understand why. As advertised, with that rezone, there'll be significant value added in selling the property. And while the family that owns the property will get to realize that, I think the community at large will lose out. I would encourage you and ask you to reject this proposal. If the commissioner or city wants to relook at the long-term use and viability of the drive-in, it really should be done through the city's general plan update. It is underway, and it's the best opportunity for the community as a whole to express the needs and wants for this area of our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. Kathleen?
Okay, we got next Nadia Abushanab. Sorry. You have 3 minutes once you start. Sorry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Nadia, what's your last name?
My last name is Abu Shanab.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, commissioners. As I said, my name is Nadia Abu Shanab. I am the Advocacy and Events Director for SB CAN, the Santa Barbara County Action Network, and I'd like to express our support for this project. I sympathize with those who would like the property to remain as a drive-in. I also experienced going to the drive-in growing up, but if the owners are saying that it is not a viable business and they'd like to sell, then we firmly believe that the best possible use of this property would be for affordable housing for the community. As you all know, Santa Barbara County is one of the counties with the most housing shortage and the most expensive cost of housing. And according to the RENA Regional Housing Need Allocation, the city of Santa Maria needs to build 985 very low housing units and 656 low housing units. So I think, I think finding sites like this that are already surrounded by other residential areas that wouldn't change the makeup of the neighborhood very much, and would promote affordable housing for the people who are already living there. I think that is an excellent use of the space, and I really appreciate People's Self-Help Housing for bringing this proposal forward, and I hope that you accept staff's recommendation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Pam Gates. Pam?
Good evening. Yes, good evening. I just wanted to, I'll make this short because I just want to echo what some others have said. I agree with Supervisor Nelson and others that we need recreation. I loved going to drive-in movies when they were around more. However, people need a place to live, and that has to be a priority. And there are also requirements that the city has to build a number of those and within the county, as Nadia just said. So People's Self-Help Housing is an excellent organization. They have built a number of properties in Santa Maria and also Guadalupe, and they do so develop properties that fit into a neighborhood, that make neighborhoods for people who need housing. And with the eviction moratorium ending, we're going to see even a greater need for housing. So I would also ask that the commission approve this so that it can be moved forward and we can have public conversations about the use of this land. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is this the last?
We have Rebecca Garcia.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, Chairman and Commissioners. I will also keep my comment brief. I just, strongly agree and support this moving forward. I feel like it's hard to to make comment because some of these things we're talking about are just ideas, right? But definitely strongly support the opportunity for affordable housing and also increasing ownership. House owners in Santa Maria. Of course, it would be great to have a drive-in and these recreational things, but I think Pam said it best, right? What's more important is having a place that people can live in, and that's definitely needed. So, yeah, I hope we'll move forward with this, especially because either way, that land needs to be sold, and it could, create opportunity for our city. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Judith Monte.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I did submit an email very late under the deadline this afternoon. I don't know if that got to you or not. If it did, I apologize. I want to make sure my comments get before you this evening. I appreciate what People's Self-Help Housing does very much for the community. As a resident in the nearby neighborhood, I don't feel like their project is an appropriate one for that location. I'm especially concerned about traffic, and I thought I heard you say earlier in the meeting that because of the type of the low income, they would be exempt from some of the scrutiny on this. That area, because of northbound Santa Maria Way having median in it and traffic now cannot get out northbound at Hillview, they have to go down Drake Drive and out at Holyoke. It would be right across from this project. It's a impacted area, and just north of that, you have between 450 and 500 kids a day that are being dropped off at a private school and picked up. So a lot of traffic going on in this region of this project, and I think the commission would be remiss to allow a project to go through in that location that would not get complete scrutiny on the traffic. But even if it could be mitigated, many of us who live in this area are here because it's been a relatively quiet neighborhood. I am on a 10,000 square foot lot. You start getting smaller lots, and smaller lots, you get more noise. And on behalf of many of the owners in the area, I do not want to see a high density project, a higher density project going in there as well. So I speak both to the traffic and then also to the density. I really would like to see it be at low density, not medium density, if at all possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Was that the final one, Kathleen? Is there
One
another?
more.
One more.
So let's see, I have to put her hand down. Okay, we have Chris Weddle. You have 3 minutes?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Chris Weddle. I grew up in this area and attended the Highway Drive-In ever since I was a child. I continued through my adult years and now have the pleasure of sharing this experience with my 3 kids, including utilizing movie nights for birthday parties. I would hate for the families of our community, including my own children, to miss out on the experiences that this location has to offer. It has also been available for events for auto shows and swap meets. I like to be involved in the community, and this past July, started hosting the Waller Majestic 4th of July Parade, which involved over 250 residents, and a local fire station to meet with the public. Just over a year ago, I started a Facebook page, Save the Santa Maria Highway Drive-In, and currently have over 3,500 members, and it still continues to grow. Being involved, I have been contacted to find locations for graduations, fundraisers, and car shows, which this location could definitely host if it was allowed. I would also like to say, as a previous law enforcement officer of 14 years, I understand that the drive-in is also a staple of the community and a safe place for teenagers to attend curricular activities. I understand that the property is not being used to its highest potential for many reasons. As important as it is for companies to continue building and for the cities and counties to have a housing source of income, it shouldn't be at the expense of losing the drive-in. If this drive-in stays, I would like to propose other events at the location as well. I know that this property has much more to offer than just a nighttime theater, and I feel that the theater must stay and continue offering family fun and adventures for our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
And
Is that it?
I believe that's it.
All right. We are closing the public hearing. We will hear once again from the applicant if she wishes to address any of the concerns that we heard from the public, and otherwise a final thing, and if not, then we will bring it back to the commission.
Well, counting, there were about 4 for and 4 against and 1 in the middle, and many had shared concerns. One thing I didn't mention earlier is we maintain an interest list of families that would like to build a self-help home in the city of Santa Maria, and we have over 800 people on that list. And they're current residents of the city.
Thank you very much. All right, at this point, I'll go ahead. Frank, did you have something?
Commission Chair, if I may just respond to one of the comments regarding traffic.
Certainly.
There was a statement about vehicle miles traveled and the review of that and affordable housing. Yes, that is correct. Vehicle miles traveled views affordable housing as not generating significant vehicle miles traveled, therefore a full analysis is not required. However, if we, there was a traffic analysis done for this project, which looked at, of course, vehicle miles traveled, but also the more familiar and traditional way of analyzing traffic, which is level of service. And that analysis concluded that this project would not have any significant impacts on any of the area intersections, nor would it have a significant impact on traffic entering or leaving on Santa Maria Way. The level of service is a scale between, a graded scale between A being the best level of service for traffic flow and movement, and I believe F is the lowest. This subdivision concept with 49 lots being occupied by single-family homes, cumulatively with the existing traffic in the area today, would still be at a level B for all the surrounding intersections, including the intersection at Santa Maria Way. So very non-impactful in terms of traffic generation. The other thing I would like to mention, and I've been trying to figure out how to word this properly, I guess simply to say that while the decision before you tonight might have, definitely has an impact on the future of the parcel, it does not assure or to the contrary that the drive-in will stay or will go. So that is a separate issue. While related to this site, obviously denying this application will not mean that the drive-in continues. I know that's a little editorializing, but I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't, this choice before you tonight was not seen as an either-or, considering the situation the property owner has described regarding their wish to sell the property. And that concludes my comments for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank. Okay, we've gone through all the public comments, some comments from staff. Anything from you, Heather?
No, thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. All right. Then I will go ahead and bring that back to the commissioners for discussions and considerations. Does anybody want to start off with comments? Commissioner Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we need housing. I know that the drive-in has provided a lot of people with a lot of, or at least a different choice for entertainment. Just in my initial comments or questions to staff, the commercial zoning district now doesn't really seem to be any more compatible with the surrounding areas, where a change to residential certainly is. Even though you're kind of weighing, you don't know really what the final product's going to be. I think there's still limitation based on the actual total size of the project. What I was trying to get to in terms of the commercial aspect and the efficiency dwelling units, there's no minimum, or there's no maximum density. There could be 200, 300 units as it's currently zoned, where that would be completely inconsistent with the neighborhood. I think that allowing a type of use such as R1 with the general plan, what is it, LMD 8?
Correct, and that is not actually a medium density zone. It's still low density zoning. It's just a subdivision within the low density designation, correct.
Right, so that seems to be more compatible. In listening to what the traffic impacts would be, our planner, Frank Albro, was very clear on and thank you for that. I think it might be a good project for the area. Anyway, those are my comments.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. You know, I think it's a little bit lamentable. I think I do concur with a lot of the comments that came through Zoom. You know, I didn't grow up in this area, but I did grow up in a community that did have a theater, and it was certainly something that I always will remember and fond of, and I was very nice to have one here, but I realize the situation is totally different now than it was, you know, when I was growing up. So it's not the same, unfortunately, for that kind of business. Housing is such a huge demand, such a huge issue for our community and most communities in California. And so you can't just overlook opportunities to develop more housing. What better use than to provide a home for a family on a piece of land? So it's not an easy project to evaluate. You know, I do have some concerns traffic-wise. I think I heard and I read some letters regarding the traffic. Certainly, I think that should be closely evaluated if this does move forward. The circulation there at Hollyoak Lane and the proximity to a potential future driveway here could be problematic. You know, the North End property that was approved a year and a half or two ago will also contribute more traffic here. So I think traffic is going to be certainly a very strong impact and a close consideration. So it's a very tough project to really evaluate. I'm trying to be very open-minded about it. It's, you know, you wish you could have have it both ways. It's just not possible. I don't want to see the property blighted either, just sitting there where it could be used a little bit better. So, yeah, a very tough decision. I wish we did have a full slate of commissioners to evaluate what I think is a very important decision. But yeah, I think that's all I really want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Blanco. You know, as Commissioner Blanco said, this is not an easy project to evaluate, and you have competing desires. I mean, we obviously need additional housing. This particular lot is being suggested that we're not looking at high density, we're actually looking at low to medium density, and that's really good. I mean, that fits very well within the area. But then you also have the competing desire of, I don't want to say it's just nostalgia, but there's a once you lose something, once you lose a park, once you lose an area that community comes together, it is very, very difficult to get that back. And certainly once you build houses on it, you never will. We look to the nostalgia we had for our downtown before it was bulldozed and a mall was put up. And now we look back to that and say, geez, how do we get that back? But it's difficult to get it back, and so you have to really give a lot of thought to whether you want to pave something over that's special. With that in mind, I have to say I can't, at this stage, I could not approve, I could not vote for and support this particular project. But hear me out. It's not necessarily that I couldn't approve for it down the road. I really would want to see the two pieces, the subdivision map and the zone change, together. I would want to know what it is we're really looking at and be voting on that. And I think part of that comes, it's a twofold process. Part of it comes from a desire for the community around this particular piece of property to be able to see what the actual proposed final map is going to look like, so they can decide for themselves whether or not it's tolerable to them or whether or not they would prefer it not, or whatever the deal is. The other thing is that as it was discussed, that will take just a wee bit of time. I mean, you're talking about something that might take 6 months to a year. And I do understand that there's additional expenses attached, and I apologize for that. But for me, that time period, there it is. There's the window for the community to come together and say, we can do something special with this spot. We can talk to the landowner. We can refurbish the thing. We can do something with it. We can draw people in. And maybe as a community, there's a gentleman with a website, has 3,500 people for saving this. So mobilize those 3,500 people over the course of this year. Talk to the landowners, see if this thing can be saved and refurbished and turned into a real community gem. And if it can't, then a year down the road, or 6 months or a year down the road, when people self-help housing, hopefully, would come back, then they would be able to say, you know, it never worked out, and now we have this project, and this is the project that we're proposing, and then the neighbors could look at it and say, well, we had a year and it didn't happen, and okay, let's move forward. And that way, you don't pull the rug out from everybody. You give everybody just a little bit of time. So that, as I said, at this stage, I could not, without seeing that subdivision map, I could not support this this zone change, but that does not necessarily mean that down the road I wouldn't. So that's my thinking on it. With that being said, we would need something. If anybody wants to propose resolutions or propose alterations, then that's where we're at. Or additional discussion points if anybody, other commissioners want to say anything else.
Mr. Chairman, just so I'm clear, you mean the PD with the general plan, the zone change? Okay, got it.
That's correct.
If I can just interject for a moment, Heather Woodham, Assistant City Attorney. There are two actions before you tonight. So the first is a resolution to adopt a mitigated neg deck and mitigation monitoring program. We would need a vote on that first, and then second would be as to the zone change and general plan amendment.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I add another comment? Commissioner Blanco brought up an interesting point with respect to having a full commission to look at this project. I would agree with that. I do sense that there is some information lacking in terms of the plan development permit application that typically travels with the general plan zone change. I know we've tabled a couple different things tonight. Commissioner Blanco, I don't know if he has anything else to add on that, but that certainly makes sense.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Lopez. I do want to echo that. There are a few question marks still. I think one thing I definitely heard in the comment letters from people was that they felt that they didn't have enough time to really react. They weren't aware of the proposal. And with time, of course, sometimes you with a lack of time, you don't have the opportunity to come forward and make your case, make a point, do anything. And so I think, in this case, we want to afford that time for those folks, even if we notice this appropriately and what have you. I think we've heard from the community that they were a little bit surprised by this proposal and were caught off guard. On top of that, I will just reiterate the fact that it'd be much nicer to have a full slate of commissioners. I know that Commissioner Seifert is very passionate about this area. And so I would be very much interested to hear his perspective on it, and Commissioner Hernandez as well. So I don't think delaying this a little bit will make a huge impact, hopefully, to the applicant, and will only benefit and allow us to come to a better decision that's more well thought out by the full panel. So I definitely agree with Commissioner Lopez on that. Thank you.
Heather?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as a reminder, your action tonight will only be a recommendation to the City Council because this involves a general plan amendment and a zone change. The item will automatically go to Council regardless of your decision tonight. That aside, if you are thinking about continuing it for a full commission, I would recommend that we ask the applicant their preference. They may not want to do that. They may want a decision tonight so they can move forward to the council.
Well, let's ask the applicant then. It sounds like the druthers for the folks up here is to delay this until we can get a full vote for the commission. Are you amenable to that?
I would be amenable to a continuance. However, in reality, according to your assistant attorney, you really have more time because you can send this on up without your recommendation, if I understand correctly, to City Council, which buys another month for people to submit more comment and think about the idea.
But if our druthers is that we wish to be the body that decides whether or not we present it to the City Council with a recommendation or with a denial, we actually would like our say in the matter, then I think that we're looking at a different, thing is that basically of trying to continue this. Is that?
In that case, I am amenable to a continuance for a set period of time. I do have a concern, Chair, of what you said earlier, though, that you would like to see us bring back a full plan, and at the same time, the community could be devising a plan.
Sure.
And then you would want to look at it, and I'm thinking, whoa, no, we can't afford to invest a single dollar more.
I understand.
Until we have a zones change.
Yeah.
So if the community wants to use that time, that's great.
Yeah.
We may or may no longer be involved, but we certainly won't be able to come up with a full PD plan without a zone change.
Well, and I think that if we continued it, then at that hearing, whether or not that's brought forth or not and discussed, at that point, the full commission could vote on whether or not they want to see the PD also, or not. I mean, it may very well be that I am the only one interested in having that, and that 4 other people are not, and then it could be denied or approved. But at least at that point, you have everybody voting one way or the other for the recommendation to the city council. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay. So what we would need is a motion to continue this, not to a specific date, because part of the council is, of course, a member that is, she has some healing that is taking place. So I don't know exactly. We'd have to talk to Commissioner Hernandez about when she is available.
Yeah, I don't know on planning schedule either, so we
Right.
could you could continue it to a date uncertain. We then would renotice and make sure that the date works for the applicant as well as the staffing.
And I think the renoticing is also good because of what we were saying about the people around there. That way they have additional notice that they can then attend and that sort of thing. So I think that fits within what we were looking at. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we continue this item, People's Self-Help Housing General Plan Amendment and Zone Change at 3170 Santa Maria Way to a date uncertain.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions and negatives? Nope. Okay, it passes. Thank you very much for your understanding. Okay, the final one. I don't know if, oh, that's it. Look at there, the press is beating feet out of here. Donati tentative tract map at 1955 South A Street. Oh, look at that. It's Dana. Have a nap? And let's see, looks like Frank's up for that one as well.
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. This is a review of a tentative tract map within the Area 9 specific plan to subdivide a 31.7 acre parcel into 20 light industrial and professional office, commercial office lots. The project site is located within the Area 9 specific plan. It is outlined in yellow, and it is somewhat resembling an inverse L shape. As you can see, it's north of Betaravia Road, west of current A Street, and it is along the future alignment of E Street. Here you see the outline of the Area 9 specific plan in yellow and the zoning designations within the specific plan. As you can see, the site overlaps primarily the M1, which is our industrial zone, and then the CPO, which is the commercial office, professional office district. The Commission may recognize this parcel from an earlier application that was distributed but not heard at the Planning Commission. That earlier application also included a specific plan amendment and a plan development permit that involved the concept of workforce housing being introduced into the specific plan as a permitted use on this particular site. We want to make clear that that is no longer the project. The only project before the commission tonight is the map. There is no specific plan amendment or employee housing plan development permit associated with tonight's action. If that were to come back, if the applicant were to choose to move forward with that again, the specific plan amendment and the plan development permit would require a completely redone environmental analysis and public hearings with the Planning Commission and the City Council. So the tentative map, again, 31.7 acre parcel, and it proposes to create 20 lots. And these lots range in size from 1 acre to approximately 1.5 acres in size. Public improvements include the construction of Sonia Lane to connect to A Street, and you can see the yellow is the extension through what remains as an agricultural parcel, where the construction of Sonia Lane improvements will take place, and then it will continue within this proposed subdivision, moving on to E Street, where the E Street alignment will be, at least at this time, partially constructed by this development. You also see to the south the stub out for the future Carmen Lane alignment to correspond to the existing Carmen Lane east of A Street. There will also be a temporary retention basin area proposed over lots 1 and 2, along with some other drainage easement improvements. And this is intended to serve this subdivision until such time as a regional basin is constructed within the Area 9 specific plan. The overall tentative map, the lot design and lot sizes, the street alignments, street widths, and the public improvements that are proposed with this subdivision are consistent with the development standards that were established with the adoption of the Area 9 specific plan many years ago. I would like to note that since the designations of the sites or the future lots that are proposed are within the PD M1 and also the PD CPO, that PD again stands for Plan Development District, which means every development that is proposed on these 20 lots, whether it is a single lot or multiple lots together, will be subject to the approval of a plan development permit, which would be brought before Planning Commission at that time the application is made. Lastly, I would like to note that an environmental analysis was done for this project. The Area 9 specific plan did have its own environmental impact report. However, the age of that report, many things that are now required by the California Environmental Quality Act had not been considered at that time. So the initial study and mitigated negative declaration that was done for this specific subdivision took off where the Area 9 specific plan EIR left off. Many of the mitigations that apply to this subdivision come directly out of the Area 9 specific plan EIR, but there are also other mitigations that were added to this project to further refine that environmental analysis. There were some comments on that mitigated negative declaration, and those comments have been incorporated into the final draft, which is provided to the commission with their packet. So in conclusion, the Planning Commission, the recommendation is that the Planning Commission take the following actions. By resolution, adopt a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring program for the proposed project. And by resolution, approve the tentative tract map, tract 6024, with modified conditions. I would like to note that the applicant and our Public Works Department were continuing to work on the project, and they did come to an agreement on a number of items that considering drainage and also the street improvements. Those modified conditions were distributed to the Planning Commission earlier. So with the motion that the commission makes on the tract map, if they so choose, we would recommend that the motion include reference to those modified conditions as written in the memo. And that concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is in the audience this evening, and staff is ready to answer any questions of the commission.
Thank you very much, Frank. Does commissioners have any questions for staff this time? Commissioner Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if we have any engineers from Public Works in attendance, but do they have any comment on the revised Public Works conditions?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lopez, do you have a specific question?
No. I just wanted to know if you guys had any additional comments, because there's some strike-throughs on the may and shall, and I don't know if you guys are in agreement with the changes?
Yeah, say that one more time.
You guys are in agreement with those changes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, the staff and the applicant engineer went over the conditions, had some revisions as you see, and we've come to an agreement.
Thank you, Engineer Bass.
You are now off Commissioner Lopez's spit. That's nice. Okay, can we hear from the applicant? Sir, would you like to do a presentation or just talk to us a bit? Certainly. If you could state your name and address for the record, and anything you want to say that has not already been covered.
So I'm David Chanley. I'm the civil engineer on the project, so I'm not the actual applicant. I'm a representation for him. My office is up in San Luis Obispo. Live here in the area, but I just like to thank both planning and engineering for working with us on the conditions, and we don't have any comments, and we accept the conditions that have been put on the map.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant's representative? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Let's see. Let us bring it to the public. Is there anybody, I know we don't have any slips, is there anybody who wishes to comment on? 1, 2, 3. All right. Let's start the ball rolling.
Rebecca Garcia,
3 minutes.
you have 3 minutes.
Hello. Again, I forgot to mention earlier, but yeah, tonight I'm making comment as a resident of Santa Maria, but also as a policy advocate with Cause. As you may know, we're an organization, a nonprofit that advocates on behalf of working class and immigrant families. Since 2012, when City Council adopted the Area 9 specific plan, there's been little to no development of the area. Clearly, there's a need to reimagine the future of Area 9, an idea that community members and especially neighbors and homeowners agree with. It may seem like a small decision today with this request to move forward with the tentative track map, but we believe that the Planning Commission should hold off on moving forward with this project because Area 9 deserves to be an ongoing conversation within the general plan. Something that was actually mentioned before in other comments, but before subdividing the land, we should have a more certain vision for the area, as the best lot size really depends on whether it remains zoned as is or moves towards residential or commercial development. Santa Maria deserves a real community vision for Area 9 and Southwest Santa Maria, which should be a part of an inclusive and transparent general plan process where residents and stakeholders are both engaged in this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kathleen?
Next, we have Kathleen Sharam. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, commissioners, again. My name is Kathy Sharam, and I'm a resident of Santa Maria. And just to warn you, I am completely brain dead at this moment, so bear with me. I just wanted to start by saying that I really like being engaged in different things that the city is doing, and so I appreciate even sitting through this entire meeting. But I want to commend all of you that are working hard to make the much needed improvements in our city. I've participated in surveys and workshops and open meetings to revitalize the downtown, to offer input to city staff, to the police, recreation and parks, and also the general plan. So I'm grateful for those opportunities, and I can appreciate the amount of work that goes into all of those things. This particular project, the Area 9 project, as I'm calling it, started before I even lived in Santa Maria, and I was a bit surprised to see that the specific plan was adopted in 2012. While it's understandable there's a desire to get things moving on this project now, nearly 10 years after the plan was adopted, a lot has changed, I think, and I think the needs for this area have changed. I would like to see the city actually step back instead of moving forward. Because so much is happening with the new general plan, I think this area should be part of that conversation, taking into consideration the desires of the community now and the changes they would like to see occur. Instead of deciding on lot sizes now, Area 9 maybe should be developed with the vision that comes out of the new general plan through finding out what the needs are of the residents and stakeholders in Southwest Santa Maria. So I'm just asking, please consider the changing needs of the community and make your decisions using the general plan process as your guide. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your perseverance.
Okay, next we have Pam Gates. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hello again, commissioners. Yes, it's been a long evening, hasn't it? But I've really learned a lot about the process, and that's been helpful. But I am here tonight to ask that you delay approval of any subdivision within Area 9 until the city of Santa Maria completes its new general plan. Exhibit D, the tentative track map conditions, states that the proposed map is consistent with the City of Santa Maria General Plan and the Area 9 specific plan. While this track may be consistent with the current general plan, I wonder why there is an urgency now to approve this change, given that the Area 9 usage was approved back in 2012 and little development has been made to date. I would urge you to hold off on moving forward with this project so that any revisions to the Area 9 plan can be discussed during the city's general plan process. The surrounding Westgate neighborhoods have experienced quite a bit of growth since 2012, and these residents should have the opportunity to express how they would like to see this area developed. This will happen as public discussions are held prior to the approval of the new general plan. It has not happened as part of this process. Surely this area would benefit from development such as grocery stores and necessary retail outlets, and the lot size should be determined by the needs of development that will serve residents in the area. I ask that you please consider holding off with making any changes now to Area 9, which may be in conflict with what the City of Santa Maria ultimately decides regarding zoning and development for the years ahead. Rather than pushing through a change at this time, the general plan process, we should work through that and engage residents and all stakeholders in a discussion on what this area could look like as it balances industrial, commercial, and residential needs. Thank you for listening to my comments.
Thank you very much.
And we have Corey Arano.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. My name is Corey Arano, and I'm the Directing Attorney of Santa Maria's California Rural Legal Assistance Office. We have previously submitted written comments to the original Donati Area 9 specific plan amendments, which was noticed as an agenda item on August 4th. In that comment letter, we requested a response to our letter submitted on a
Microphone array, name and system.
Excuse me?
Sorry. Go
Sorry
on.
about that. Yes, thank you. In that comment letter, we requested a response to our letter submitted on August 3rd, and I went ahead and sent a follow-up email on September 8th. However, I did not get any substantive responses to my email request for additional information until September 21st. It was then that I first received our first meaningful response as an interested party on the project and learned that the project will be moving forward in some respects at a later date. It was then that I sent in a PRA request, and I'm still awaiting some substantive documents with regard to that PRA request, and it's supposedly going to be another 2 weeks before I receive any such documents. We are requesting today that because the city has failed to provide meaningful public notice and information and timely to individuals that expressed an interest in that project, that you withhold making a decision on the project today and continue this item to a later date. We still have concerns with regards to the development, as we have learned and was previously stated today that the developer might intend on adding a housing component at a later date. If this is the case, it is still our position that it's unlawful to piecemeal projects, which would be inappropriate under CEQA. It is also continues to be our position that if this is to be an entirely new project, the mitigated negative declaration from the previous proposal cannot simply be recycled and reused. And the differences in environmental impacts from the change project must be reevaluated. If the housing is added later, it may also be unlawful spot zoning, which was what was raised in our previous letter. And we still contend, as stated earlier, that to do an adequate CEQA, you must reevaluate the entirety of the project, including any later phases anticipated, which seems to be the case here. While some of these issues might have been addressed previously, we believe that there still has been insufficient notice by the city for meaningful comment and evaluation. And as such, we respectfully request that this agenda item be continued to a future date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does staff wish to, do we have any other?
No.
No. Okay, then we'll close the public hearing. Does staff have any response to the last
I'll
person?
attempt a response. I don't know if Ms. Edie has anything to add as far as proper notice. It's my understanding that proper notice was done under the government code. This is the previous submittal was withdrawn, and this submittal is just for a tentative track map. It does not include the employee housing. And it's my understanding that a new mitigated negative declaration was prepared for this project, which is just the tentative map. And that new mitigated neg deck then does not include the employee housing because that portion has been withdrawn. I do know that they made a public records request under the law. The city has 10 days to respond to that request to let them know if there are any responsive records, and if so, when they will be available. It's my understanding that that response was provided within the 10 days, and they were advised that due to the voluminous nature of the records and the different departments involved, that it would take approximately 2 weeks to respond, which is fairly normal. So the city is responding to that. So as long as Ms. Edie is confident that all proper notice was given, I see no problem with the the commission moving forward.
Thank you very much. Chair, members of the commission, I will build off of what the city attorney has provided. Not only was the project noticed properly, 300-foot radius, all the property owners within that radius were sent notices of this hearing. But the environmental document, as the Assistant City Attorney has mentioned, a new initial study and mitigated negative declaration was produced with conditions applying directly to a tentative map in the Area 9 specific plan. That mitigated negative declaration was posted for public review between September 7th and September 27th in accordance with CEQA regulations, 20-day review. So that was completed as well. I would like to just summarize by saying all the noticing was done properly. Not only the hearing notice, but also the mitigated negative declaration was noticed. I do want to note as well that the proposed subdivision is consistent with the Area 9 specific plan, that there's been no direction to revise the Area 9 specific plan. And so that, oh yeah, and I do want to mention too that all of the noticing also occurred in the newspaper as well. The environmental document was posted on our city's website. And so that concludes my responses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have brought it back to us. So we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commissioners at this point. Do we have any comments or questions from commissioners or resolutions or lack thereof? Commissioner Blanco?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a question or comment, but, some pretty good points brought up about, where we're at on the general plan update. How does the specific plan, this plan really weave itself into that process? Is it included in the scope of that evaluation, or how is that folded into our general plan update?
So, Chair Dickerson, Commissioner Blanco, so right now we're about midway through the general plan update. The phase that we're in right now is called the alternatives phase. And so the city's looking at potential alternatives where changes could occur either within the existing city limits or potentially annexations outside of the city, or maybe a combination of both. The specific plans have not been reviewed yet for changes, but that could occur down the road. But it would be more towards the future phases, which would be in the next couple of years. So the completion of the general plan is anticipated to be in winter of 2023. So we have quite a bit of time left on that. What we were focusing on with this application is that it complies with the current Area 9 specific plan. We have not made a decision that we're holding applications back from being processed while the general plan update is going on. This project complies with Area 9. The lot sizes comply. The zoning is there. So that's why we are recommending approval on this. I will say, though, it is possible that there may be changes to Area 9 as part of the general plan. We're just not at that time yet. We haven't done the analysis yet to know what that would be.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add on to that, your role here as planning commissioners are to hear projects as they come forward. Some acts are legislative, such as general plan amendments, zone changes. You have a lot of discretion with those, and you can kind of have broad discretion. With this type of project, it's quasi-judicial type of project. You're bound by our code and by the findings that you have to make. So for a tentative track map, there's specific findings, which actually I think one of the speakers mentioned. So for instance, the first finding is the proposed map is consistent with applicable general and specific plans because. So if you find that this project meets all the findings for this tentative map, there really would be no legal justification to just hold it indefinitely while we move through the general plan process.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Lopez, do you have comments or questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, the only comment I had was what Commissioner Blanco asked, and I was kind of wondering how that all weaved in with the new specific plan, and Dana answered that. All right. Thank you.
Sure. And the only comment I have is if we held back on this project, which we don't have a legal right to do, then theoretically anything sweeping across all of Santa Maria until the new general plan is done, we would hold back on or have the right to, and that just doesn't seem to make sense. So that being said, if there are no more comments by planning commissioners, we need resolutions or lack thereof. Somebody want to make a resolution? Motion?
Just a reminder, as you can see on the screen there, this would be for the mitigated negative declaration first.
Sorry, if I may, Chair.
Absolutely.
One more question on the mitigated negative declaration. So when we were presented the project in August, there was an MND. The MND is revised or updated. Were there any significantly different impacts out of that MND from the prior project? My understanding is that with the prior MND, they evaluated certain things given the worst case scenario, maybe for development, and maybe that was the light manufacturing or industrial, but just to understand a little better, were there subtle differences, any differences at all from the prior?
So the prior mitigated negative declaration did analyze three main components. The specific plan amendment to add employee housing as a use within the specific plan, the plan development permit, which was the design of the proposed employee housing buildings and site design, and then lastly, the tentative map, which is essentially the same tentative map as what is being seen here today. So that environmental document analyzed all of those things and the impacts of all those things combined. One thing to note is that the concept for the employee housing was that it was temporary, undetermined time of how long it might last. But there was always the idea that at some point in the future, all of the lots that were being used as employee housing would eventually become what the underlying zoning had intended, which was light industrial uses and commercial and professional office uses. So while it is accurate to say that the MND that was produced for the subdivision map only that is before you today was heavily drawn from that prior document, the impacts, there were no new impacts, no additional impacts from the change that was made. all the mitigations that were in that prior document, there are no new ones in this current document that was done just for the subdivision itself. And as I say, the prior document envisioned that all of the lots at one point would become all industrial and or commercial office based on the underlying zoning. So those full impacts were analyzed in that prior document, and that information pertinent to the subdivision only was distilled and became part of the background information for this current document.
All right, thank you, Frank.
Certainly.
Mr. Chairman?
Sir?
Mr. Chair, if I could just jump in, I apologize. Heather Whittam. I just want to add on to kind of that concept. Before you tonight is the tract map. Any development, I believe, unless planning corrects me, would require a planned development permit. So it would be coming back to you, any planned development for this site. And at that time, if any additional CEQA review was necessary, we would do additional CEQA review, and we would, have an opportunity to impose new conditions at another public hearing, and the public could participate. So this is just for the map tonight.
Thank you, Heather. Commissioner Lopez?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking back to the initial project where we're kind of processing, we were looking at processing a GPZ zone change without a PD, and this is similar because we really don't have a PD being processed with, I understand this is a track map, but I just wanted to bring that up. And also, Windset Farms had a letter that we received. Was there anything to add from staff on that?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say that we did communicate with Windset Farms. We provided Windset Farms with the updated conditions. We did not get any response. I both sent email, excuse me, and I did leave a phone message for the gentleman on the letter. But in response to that letter, we did talk with engineering, and we went over the issues that were brought up in that letter. The assertions that the drainage has not been significantly analyzed, our engineering division says no, that is not correct. They do have a concept stormwater plan, and that concept is sufficient to move forward with this tentative map. There was concern relayed in the letter about somehow the street improvements under this map would prevent access, and that's simply not the case. It's going to enhance the access to the other nearby parcels. It will not prevent access to the east side of the future East Street alignment. And there was also implications that if we moved forward now without the hydrology report being completed, that somehow we would be locked into the precise things that were shown or depicted on this tentative map. And again, that is not the case. That is not the case in any of a situation where we have a tentative map going. Refinements are made. So let me step back. If the commission does approve the tentative map tonight, the next step will be that the applicant will submit the preliminary final map, for lack of a better description, and that will include the public improvement plans as well as grading plans for the site and so forth. Revisions are always made as projects move through, and before the final map is recorded, all the drainage, all the street improvements, and all the infrastructure is going to have to meet standards and meet the approval of our city engineering staff and the city planning staff. So while the tentative map is a representation of what the final map will need to be, the conditions of approval require modifications to that tentative map, and those conditions of approval cover the contingencies or as the letter portrays them, unknowns about the drainage situation. So after review and consultation with our engineering staff, we felt that the letter, while obviously they're concerned, there was no reason for their concerns.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're back to any more comments or questions? I have none. No? Does anyone wish to make a motion?
Well, I move that by resolution that we adopt mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring program for the proposed project.
Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Do we get a roll call?
Commissioner Blanco?
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez?
Aye.
Chair Dickerson?
Aye.
I also move that by resolution, we approve tentative track map, track 6024, TR 2020-0001.
With the modifications in the memo?
Thank you, with the modifications and the conditions of approval in the memo.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Blanco?
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez?
Aye.
Chair Dickerson?
Aye. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. And let us go on to oral reports from Planning Commission and staff. Do we have any oral reports from staff?
Thank you. Yes, this is Dana Eady, Planning Manager. I was just going to update you all on our hearing schedule coming up. We have a study session tomorrow that will be at 1:30. We're having the meeting over at Shepherd Hall. As a reminder to anyone listening, Zoom will not be available for this meeting, so if you'd like, they all left. Oh, if you'd like to attend, please come to the meeting room. And there's going to be 2 items that we're going to be discussing tomorrow. One of them is a new Starbucks up on Main Street and near the 101. And then there's also a proposed project at Crossroads Shopping Center for some self-storage there. And then October 20th is a hearing date. We do not have any items scheduled for that date, so I would say we should cancel that hearing date. And then that brings us to, for the next hearing date, November 3rd, which at this point, we just have the Boomers item that was continued tonight to that date. There may be a couple other items we can add. I just have to speak with staff and see if we have anything else. Otherwise, I gave you a little bit of an update on the general plan, just answering that question earlier. So I think that's everything I have to update tonight. Thank you all for coming back into the room tonight. And I want to apologize again for the technical difficulties, but we got through it. And, you know, while it's been a long meeting, I think we got to all the items. So thank you again.
Do you have anything for the study sessions on the 21st and the 4th?
We don't have anything yet, but I would like to leave them open in case something comes up.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? No?
Yeah, actually I do. I kind of wanted to tell you how my day was today. Just kidding. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I wanted to introduce a new staff member to the Engineering Public Works Department, Mr. Luis Magayon. He is a local, homegrown Santa Marian, was formerly with the city of Menifee, and we were fortunate enough to lure him back to the city of, back home, the city of Santa Maria, and we're fortunate to have him, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of him. He's going to be working in the development section, and so Commission, please get used to Luis, because you're going to see a lot more of him. And also, thank you for Mark Mueller. He was here to support me in case I got into any trouble. You'll be seeing a lot more of Mark here, and that's all I have to report. That's all I have to report. Thank you.